Introduction to Blender tutorials. In this tutorial we're going to be looking at the basics of animating in Blender. We're just going to go for a very basic simple way of doing animation in Blender. There are many ways of doing animation. We'll get more into some of the other details as we go. This is just the very basics. So what we're going to do is start by adding an object. We're going to put our monkey head in again. So we're going to go add, mesh, and find monkey. Alright, so here's my monkey. Now I'm in layout window at the moment, which looks like this. We have the 3D window here, and below it, and it might be down here, you might have to pull it up a bit, but below it we've got this window here. This window is the timeline, so you can change these around. So you can see this is the editor type timeline, and what that is doing is that these numbers here, that's 10 frames, 20 frames, 30 frames. So when a movie is run, it actually is running a certain amount of frames a second. So on our Blender at the moment, this is set up to render at, where are we? Here we are, we're at 24 frames a second at the moment. Okay, so a video game might be 60 frames a second. If we want to do it really smooth, we could do it up there. We can choose any frame rate we want. Now, automatically or by default, Blender will be have it preset between frames 1 and the end frame at 250. You can see these here. We can change these numbers. We're going to change the end value to 100. Alright, now you can see the grey area here is area outside of what will render. If we press, if we go up here to render animation, it will only render 100 frames, even if we've done stuff outside of this. So all we're interested in this area here. Now we want to make this area as big as possible in the screen we're using. So there's a couple of ways we can do this, but the easiest is to just, with the mouse in here, just press the home button. So basically that will fill this to the whole screen size. That's going to be important. Now our controls here, we've got, this is a play animation forwards, this is a play animation backwards. This one jumps to the previous keyframe. We've got no keyframes at the moment. This one goes to the first frame, that one goes to the last. So that one takes me to frame 100, that one takes me to frame 1. Now this one's important. This is our record button. So when we want our animation to record keyframes, we have this pressed in. And what that will mean is whenever I move the character, it will move. Now it's going to be important here at this point to use the camera. So let's go into camera mode. This is what I can see. So this is what we will see in the animation. Now I can move the camera and animate it. I will show you that another time. Just for the moment, make sure you're looking through the camera. So the bright area is what the camera sees. The dark areas are outside of the camera's view of the animation. So I'm going to move the head of my monkey here. Now because I pressed this in beforehand, you can see I now have a yellow dot there on frame 1. Now this dot represents a keyframe. Now if I go over here to this little side menu, go to click on the little summary menu and go to my object transforms, you can see that what I have actually moved it on is the y-axis here. So I've clicked on that. That's the one I'm actually moving it on. I've moved its y location. Now if I go to frame 100, grab it and move it right over the other side, then that's going to be a new keyframe over there. So that has moved my position. Now the cool thing about Blender compared to say doing stop motion animation in other ways, and any digital animation tool will generally do this, is it fills in the gaps. Alright, so this is a keyframe. This is a position, frame 1, another position at frame 100, and these frames in between are called the in-between frames, or the tweens. Now I can change, I can update. So if I go say to frame 50, halfway, I could move him down. Alright, now remember we can use the move tool here. So now it goes down and then up. Alright, have a go at that. Okay, now that you've had a go at that, let's have a play with some other things in here. So, how about I do a rotation in here? So, now at frame 40, his head's going to be there. By the time it gets to 50, it'll be straight again. So, that's its original position. That's its rotation at frame 40 and back to straight at frame 50. I can go into here and I could maybe animate it that way. So we now have him animating like that. What else can we do? Well, we can animate scale as well because we've got scale in there. So let's animate the scale. So he's going to stretch down, stretch back out to full size. Let's elongate him this way. Alright, I can also transform, allows me to do all of them. So I can, sort of move him. I could move him up here in that position. So now he's doing a very complex movement like that. So that's the basics of a very simple animation in Blender. It will make that very quick. Now you don't have a movie. You have an animation that's running in the Blender engine at the moment, in the Blender machine, but you haven't made a movie that you can play. You'd need to play this in Blender. Alright? But at the moment, that's the basis of setting up a simple animation. But there's much more to do. In the next tutorial, we will look at another type of animation, which is a follow path animation. Okay, thanks for listening.